Başlayayım mı? Başlıyorum ama. Meetings are just one tool in our belt. Olmadı. Stop share. I couldn't. Yaptım. Biz çıktık mı? Hı? I think it did not start for the audience because Shaniz also is watching it from the other side. So it means that they're checking. So this was a video that was for us, I think. Nasıl alacağım? Başlayalım.
A message in the chat saying we started from, you may start.
You may start, I think.
Duyuyor muyuz? O görmüyor değil mi şu an? Oh. Okay then, welcome everyone. Welcome to our panel organized by MPI Turkey. We will start with a short movie or video from MPI Global for those of us who are not very familiar with our association. Well, welcome again, everyone. Welcome to our session organized by MPI Turkey Club. This was a short movie about MPI to give you an idea, a glimpse of what MPI is about for those of our audience who are not very familiar with our association. It's a global association, a strong and powerful association consisting of 17,000 meeting planners, professionals. It's a network. And one of the most important aspects of MPI is the educational content, the seminars, the certification programs that it prepares and offers to the community. And of course, exclusively to us as members. Of course, these videos, you have seen some of the conferences, the international meetings that we have, that MPI has organized and we have attended. As MPI Turkey Club, we have been approved since 2011, and we are the bridge between the MPI International Association and the local community. We try to share the educational content and the networking opportunities with our local community, but we also believe in Turkey, in our industry, the meeting and event industry, as being a strong, experienced and established group of people, professionals, and we would like us to be more and more active on the international platforms, such as MPI, the meetings, where we constantly try to make joint activities with the European and the international chapters, be present at international events such as EMEC, which are signature events for MPI. We believe that the more we are present as Turkish industry professionals, the more active we will be and our voice will be heard. So that's one of our aims is to have a stronger MPI club or chapter in Turkey. And one of the reasons why we came to Izmir, actually this trade show is traditionally based in Izmir, is we also believe that Izmir needs to be a better positioned conference destination. And so in that sense, we probably would need to have more members, more partnerships from Izmir as MPI Turkey. So please, I would like to invite you to visit our stand at this trade show, to come and be a member to MPI Turkey Club, because together we will be stronger. But I will not take a long time because we have a group of very important and very prestigious panelists with us today discussing the future of our meetings and events industry. Let me very briefly introduce them. And starting from my screen, we have Ms. Karina Bauer. She's the CEO of IMEX Group. Also, IMEX has for us is one of the most important trade shows of the meeting and events industry. IMEX has also been very supportive to our industry during this COVID period and to MPI, and thank you, IMEX, for that. So we'll hear up from Karina. Then we have, again, Miguel Neves. He is on the board of MPI, and he is a social strategist, and he probably has very interesting views, comments about the future of our industry. And coming from the USA very early in the morning is Ms. Gina Samci. She is the Global Corporate Director of Sales Corporate Accounts of Marriott International. And she's also on the board of MPI Foundation. And thank you again. And the section will be moderated by Özen Krant Yozcu. Most of you might know her quite well in Turkey. She's a researcher and academician. At the moment, she is joining us from Porto, Portugal, at the European Business School, but she also is an instructor at Bilgi University, Bosphorus Boğaziçi University in Turkey. So she's well known in our community as well from the university or the academic side, and she will be moderating our panel. So I will try to mute myself and leave it to you, Özen Hoca.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Gapralı. So I would like to also thank you for accepting our invitation and for being with us, MPI Turkey, in this digital fair. So I'm so excited to be with you on the stage to talk about Qua Vadis meetings. So this means that what will be trends, expectations, future of events and meeting industry. So I would like to start my first question with Karina Bauer. Dear Karina, of course, we will talk about the future. So what will be the future of trade shows like IMEX and events and meetings? Also, could you please explain some of 12 commitments that you have given of Talking Point 2021 on behalf of IMEX Group?
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me, and pleasure to be here with the Turkish industry. Yeah, in terms of the future of meetings and events generally, I have to say we at IMEX are very positive and confident about the future of the industry. And, you know, that's not just because we're in the industry, but it's because of the feedback that we're seeing, the demand that we're seeing from right across the world, from our clients, our exhibitors, and also our buyers, but also because it's a basic human need, you know, to meet. I think if this pandemic has shown the world nothing else, it's shown how much people need and desire to be together. And I think we mustn't forget that the reason that people are not meeting at events right now is because there has been, and there is in many places still, a safety issue. Once that safety issue goes away, I see absolutely no reason that we can't be very confident about our industry coming back strongly. That doesn't mean it's going to be exactly the same. It's going to, every event will come back in the same way, but our industry, I'm absolutely certain, will come back very strongly, and that there's a huge, I know that there's a huge pent-up demand. I'll give you one example. In the UK here, Monday evening, our Prime Minister announced a roadmap for how the country will reopen based on you know, the data that comes out. And the next day, one of the smaller venues in London got £20 million worth of inquiries in just that one day. They've been receiving 0 inquiries for most of the past year, and they got 20 million in one day after that announcement. So that just shows you some of the pent-up demand that there is in the system. In terms of trade shows like IMEX, of course, our next trade show will be in November at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, so we're working very hard towards that. As I say, we've got huge demand from both the exhibitor and the buyer side to attend. People are really looking forward to coming together again and meeting each other face to face and doing business face to face. Of course, we have to look at all the safety procedures and how we keep people both safe but also comfortable as well. We have all been, as a world, through a kind of collective trauma, I think you could say. And so I think that's really important as event organizers, that we think about how to really make people feel comfortable in an event environment again, make sure people are safe, but also really think about the design of the event so that it is exciting for people to be there. When people come back together again in real life, you want to make sure that isn't a sterile experience, but it is a fantastic experience for them to be together. So we've got a lot to think about as organizers. So I hope that answers some of your questions about future events. Do you want me to cover the 12 commitments now as well?
Perhaps you can give some of them, most of the important parts. Perhaps you can
Sure.
With the connection of these future.
Yes, absolutely. I think for us at IMEX, you know, we always launch a talking point every year. Our talking point this year is nature, but what we also did was really launch our 12 commitments, which is really us focusing on a different key industry issue each month of the year. So this month, for example, February has all about been well-being and mental health. We'll also be covering this year sustainability, diversity and inclusion. what we're calling micro experiences. So really looking towards the future of the industry. And we're also, of course, covering strongly how we come back in real life, in person at events, and what that will mean. So that just gives you a very brief flavour, and really it is about us trying to focus on those issues, highlight them, and put out content that will be of value to the industry as they go back to live events.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So perhaps I will continue with the same question with the Gina. Okay, so Gina, what will be the future of events and meetings as a perspective of a hotelier, of course, as your event planner, and what is your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. I think along the same lines as Karina, Marriott is very optimistic about the future of meetings and events. We definitely need, I mean, our hotels need in-person events to continue, right? So they can continue to operate. So just like you all as meeting planners need this lifeline to your business, our hotels do as well, and as an industry overall. So I definitely agree with that sentiment. I think we are seeing a lot of green shoots as we look across Marriott International globally, right? So every region of the world is really at a different place with dealing with COVID and what their restrictions are. If you look at the United States, it's almost like we have 50 different countries within the United States, because every state has its own kind of restrictions on meetings and events. There are some states that are completely open and others that have stay-at-home orders. So we're just trying to navigate that as our new normal today. But I would say overall, we are seeing an uptick in new RFPs, which is something we haven't seen for quite some time. So we are very optimistic about that. I think if you look more short term, the latter half of 2020 is looking fairly positive for us. I think there's a lot of demand with everything that's happening with vaccine distribution globally. So that has given us a lot of optimism. It feels like that's giving our meeting planners and our customers optimism as we see more RFPs come in. So that's all positive. In the short term though, we really feel like hybrid is, for the next 18 months probably, hybrid is where the focus is going to be, right? So we at Marriott International have had a couple of our own hybrid events and have had a lot of learnings from those. We had one at the Ritz-Carlton Tyson Corners that was a few months ago, and just last week we had one at the Gaylord Rockies in Denver, Colorado. We have a lot of learnings from those. And great timing too, because I'm happy to share that later today, we're actually issuing some of those findings, and everyone here that's listening today and everyone globally will have access to our own learnings, because we're publishing a white paper on that. So if you just want some additional resources on what virtual or hybrid looks like, if you want to see what some of our hotels look like set up for social distancing, if you go to MarriottBonvoyEvents.com, there is a wealth of information there, including customer tutorials, tutorials from the hotel perspective, just to give you some insight on how we at Marriott International are handling things. The other piece of the white paper, and another great learning that we have had with conducting both hybrid and in-person events, is that we have to rely on third-party partners to execute on some of the pieces of these events. So whether that's, COVID screening or testing on site for a meeting, or our technology partners and executing hybrid, we found some really great trusted partners, and we'll be sharing that as a part of the white paper. Right now, those partners are primarily US and Canada, but we do have very quick plans to expand that globally. So that's kind of what I would say. Optimism, absolutely, for in-person events, and we know we need to get back there. But I think Karina said it when she said that the customers and attendees have to feel confident in getting there. So hybrid in the path will get us there. So that's kind of our perspective.
Yes. Also, I will also ask my second question in how is the confidence level, and we will talk about later on. Yep. So Thank you. So, dear Miguel, I want to ask the same question to you, but of course, in the perspective of a different way, because we all know that you are a digital event strategist. And from the beginning of this pandemic period, you're organizing very good cook-up sessions, cook-up virtual event sessions. I think it is 16 or 17, and they are really very good. And also, you are explaining that the strategies you have to cook up like a menu. It's a very interesting idea that you're explaining this. So I want to ask this question in the perspective of a digital event strategist. What will be the future of event and meeting industry, but this time including some trends like a very famous attendee engagement or event design, or just like, for example, experiences?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here. From the kind of digital event strategist perspective, I think in the last year or so, we've moved forward what would normally take us maybe 10 years in terms of understanding technology, in terms of learning, in terms of designing the experience of digital events, which I think nobody was ready for. You know, I think for somebody like me, it's been an incredibly busy time, but quite stressful, quite varied. It's been a really, really fascinating kind of experience, and I hope we never have to go through something like this again. But it is what it is, right? We deal with it. But I think this experience has also led us to have different expectations. And I'm a big fan of hybrid, or I think that's definitely the future for us. But what that really means is very different for different people. For some people, hybrid is a face-to-face conference where some sessions are streamed online, and you have a virtual component where some people that maybe won't travel or can't travel see that, and that's perfectly fine. I don't know if I would call that completely hybrid, but there's definitely an online experience and there's an in-person experience. I don't know, and I don't really like to comment on when we're going to be able to meet face-to-face. I think it's going to be different all over the world. But I agree with the sentiment that what's really important is people feeling confident and people feeling that like they want to get on a plane. I had the opportunity to go to a series of meetings in the US last year around MPI. And I think while technically I could have maybe done it, there probably would have been some quarantines and some issues. It didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel right. And I think MPI and many organizations around the world are creating digital meetings, are creating digital experiences that enable us to, at least from the content side, we're able to get almost as good of an experience on the content side as we can when we're physically in the space. Some would even argue that you get a better experience because everybody who's on digital has a front row seat. Everybody can see the screen really well. Everybody can understand what people are speaking very clearly. However, when it comes to the networking and the social elements, the feedback that we get from speaking face-to-face, that's incredibly hard to do online. And it's very exhausting to be looking at your screen all day. Even if you do a well-designed digital experience, it's still very exhausting. So I definitely look forward to being able to meet face-to-face. I believe that the future is more about condensing content to a minimal and really focusing on the personal networking experience. And so I think things like IMEX and trade shows all around the world will continue to make sense, but the experience is going to change. We're probably going to have more touchless experiences, less kind of connection just to be more safe. But also, there's a big focus on content, and I think there will continue to be a big focus on content. But where I think we need to really go is that discussion, that interaction. So I think we'll see less keynotes, less sort of big experts saying smart things on a stage, and more, hey, let's meet with 20 people that do what you do and come from all around the world and come into a room and really get to know different tools that you use, different techniques that you use, so that we can all be better at our jobs. And we could have done this, and we did do this to some extent, but we could have done this, for the last 10, 20 years, but we tend not to. And I think this experience that we're living right now is going to push us in that direction. And those kind of experiences, I don't think are easy to do online. You can do variations. And so I don't think that we're going to see a lot of hybrid experiences that are going to try and kind of do that and be online at the same time. Because if I'm engaging with 20 other people face to face, I don't want to be on my phone. I don't want to be connected digitally. I want to be listening. I want to be talking. I want to be seeing their expressions. And I don't think that's going to go away. The size, the variety, the locations, those things will probably change, and we can discuss, what we predict. But I think those experiences are unique, and I think we're going to get better at creating those experiences. So I hope that answers your question. I know I went in all sorts of directions, but here you go.
Yes, so thank you very much, Miguel. Of course, we can talk about the micro-segmentation and different kinds of trends in these topics, and also in these strategies implementing into these experiences or attendee engagements. Thank you very much for your clear answer. So I want to continue with my second question to Karina again. So Karina, of course, we are living in really interesting days, and we can also talk about some unsuccessful things. But now I want to ask you the achievements. What are the achievements or positive takeaways from pandemic periods? Of course, if any, and the successes, because I think we need to talk about successes more, right? So to be optimistic. And you can explain us these success stories from the perspectives of your personal or business experiences, focusing on the first meeting and events.
Yeah, I think it's a great question because, as Miguel said, we have had a decade's worth of learning in a year. I remember calling Miguel up last April and asking for help on the first Planet IMEX, because as an organization that had only done live trade shows, we just didn't have a clue as to how to put together the pieces for a virtual event. And I'm sure we weren't alone as an organization trying to work that out. Now it seems amazing that we didn't know, but you don't know until you do these things. So we certainly have all been through a firestorm of learning. I think from an organization perspective, from our perspective at IMEX, actually, again, remote working has been difficult, but it's also taught us a huge amount. I think as a team, in going away from what we did as an organization, which was executing live trade shows, and going and doing something totally different, we had to break down all sorts of barriers and silos within the organization, some of which we didn't even realize were there because we were so used to doing what we were doing. It wasn't a problem, but suddenly you realize that there were barriers there. So those have been broken down. People have learned new skills. People have actually brought in skills from their personal life into the home. And we've learned as well how to work in a completely different environment. And that is changing every day, the way we interact and the way we work. I actually believe as an organization, we're stronger and we're better. We're collaborating more. We're talking to each other more. People are getting involved in more things across the organization, and the transparency has increased through all of that. And also, we've really focused for us in particular in investing in things like our tech systems, on our information technology, our content marketing. So we're recruiting actually at the moment right across the business in different key areas that are going to be important going forward. So, I actually think this has been a truly difficult time for everybody, but I think we have used it to learn and develop, and ultimately as an organization, and I believe that the industry as a whole, this is what I see right across the industry, we will be stronger and better for it. And partly go back to what Miguel said, we've had a decade's worth of learning in a year. That's really tough, but we've done that learning very quickly, and so therefore, we're going to accelerate faster out of this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will continue with Gina also with the same question. So what do you think? What are the achievements or positive takeaways from the hotelier perspective also for the pandemic period?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for Marriott International, it has our industry obviously was very, very hard hit, right? We had, even from a corporate perspective, many of our people were put on furlough. Some remain on furlough now a year later. And we've lost a lot of positions. So it has been very difficult for us as a company. I think our focus on our associates and putting our associates first and at the core of every decision we make has served us very well during this time. So I just kind of call that out. I know that everyone, listening today has had their own personal situation. Everyone has been impacted, right? Whether it's financially or even from a career perspective, right? So that has been very difficult. I think for me personally, the intersection between my corporate life or my job that I get paid for, and then my job with the MPI Foundation has really filled my heart, because the MPI Foundation was able to give over $700,000, due in large part to a generous donation from Karina and the IMEX group, back to our industry. So that was I know even people on my team benefited from that. Like people at Marriott that report to me benefited in having their memberships renewed, or they were able to attend MPI WEC. So the impact that our industry has on each other and the way that we take care of each other is something that I don't want to forget after COVID, right? So that has been so heartwarming and so important. So I just want to make sure we all stay focused on that and stay focused on taking care of each other. So that's really from the people perspective. And then the other successes, I think from an MPI perspective, MPI was able to execute their World Education Congress. It happened to be at a Marriott hotel this year, which was fantastic, at one of our Gaylord hotels in Texas. We had over 1,700 attendees. 600 of those were in person in Texas. And this was in November. So really still in the middle of, the pandemic for everyone. And then there were 1,100 digital attendees from over 17 countries. And on that digital piece, they had almost 65,000 unique interactions between attendees. So just a huge success overall, one of the first industry events to take place. It was hybrid, and while it wasn't, the first hybrid, they think that it was actually the one that featured all live programming. So there, through MPI TV, there were 5-hour broadcasts each day that were all of the, general sessions. And then for anything else, they could go into a green room and do the same presentation live for a digital audience. So it was really a huge success from a safety perspective. They really took everything into consideration. And I will say, from having 600 people together in person in Texas, I believe there was only one case of COVID post-event, but there was no, spread during the event. So huge success following all the safety protocols. So that's what I would say is my successes to take away.
Thank you. Yes, I think so. We learned lots of things, and we have lessons learned. We will I think we will fill out a file about that. So my second question again will the same, but again for a different perspective. For a digital event strategist, what is your opinion about the achievements and positive takeaways from pandemic periods, success stories?
Sure. I think we've learned technology, as I mentioned before, so much. I think, Feyhan, just before we started, was saying, "Oh, I don't really like this technology." And then, but if you think about that compared to maybe last year, I think it's a world of difference, right? And so I think technological development, digital dexterity is a new term that I've heard that I like a lot. That idea that you can do more things and you're more capable. I think we've all developed a lot. But I think also in terms of event design, I think we've explored different things. And I think it's, I used to study music, and one of the things you do when you study music is you give yourself limitations. So you say, okay, I know I need to write a song in this particular key or do this, and you kind of stick with it. And in a way, we've given ourselves a limitation. We can't meet face to face. We have to kind of do this digitally. And that leads to really creative outputs. I think things like the way we deliver content, the way we do podcasts, video recordings, you mentioned the cooking up virtual events, live streams, all those things have developed incredibly fast during this time. And of course, they're not directly connected to events necessarily, but I think the world of events is the world of delivering content, is the world of planning gatherings, right? And so if we get better at that, if we understand people's expectations, if the technology integrations are smoother, if you click on one button and suddenly you're into an environment that works and that makes sense for you, all that is amazing development. And it's all things that I'm confident we can keep, whether we go into hybrid, physical, or virtual, so that those expectations are with us. It's a bit like, you pick up a mobile phone these days and you're so fast with it, right? You want to check the weather, or you want to check your email, or you want to do something. You kind of have 2 or 3 clicks and you go. If you think about doing the same thing on the first edition of the iPhone or on a computer, 5 or 6 years ago, you have to type in an address, you have to know where to go. It just takes you that much longer. So I think we're much closer to this excellent user experience that we all desire for. And I think we can't go back to user experiences that are not good, because our audiences are just not going to take it. They're just going to be horrified. So I think there's a lot of positives to take there, and bringing that user experience design into events in a physical environment or a hybrid environment. I'm expecting amazing things. I'm expecting all events to be at a really high level when they start up again, and I'm expecting things to just be different, and people experimenting in different ways. So I have really high hopes.
Yeah, thank you, Miguel, because also my next question will be about the technology. So that's why I'm just not asking too much about that now. So thank you for my answers of my second questions. Now, my third question will be again goes to Karina first. So of course, this is also one of your commitments among the 12 commitments. Implications of safety and security protocols in trade shows, meetings, and events during this period. Also, I want to ask, what do you think? Will it be lasting even after pandemic? As we all know that you canceled IMEX Frankfurt, but as you said before, now you're planning IMEX America in November in Mandalay Bay. So what will be these implications or preventations about that?
Well, maybe I'll answer the first question. Will the changes be lasting? As Miguel said at the beginning, we're making predictions. None of us really know. I believe that there will be some lasting changes. I think actually some of the changes that we're looking at around flow, and all events are really, to disperse crowds and queues and things like that. There weren't a great experience anyway, to be in a crowd, to be in a queue for 10 minutes. So things like that, I think I can imagine staying, because why wouldn't you create the most comfortable environment that you can for your attendees? Some of the things that we were looking at for Frankfurt this year, I fully expect us to do in Frankfurt in April 2022, because they were great ideas, things like having a beautiful outdoor cafe area under a big marquee and doing education outside. And these are things that we should be doing anyway. So as Miguel said, really thinking about the experience of our attendees and our guests. I think as well, people will, for a good amount of time, be more conscious about their hygiene as well. And again, that's no bad thing. At events, we all know, we've been to events where colds and coughs have gone around a room. So I think if people keep up better hand sanitation and things of that nature, those are the things I would expect to see remaining for quite a period of time. I think a lot of other things, once people are safe and secure, and with the pandemic, with vaccines, possibly with testing, I think a lot of other things will slowly disappear. In terms of what we're looking at for IMEX America this year, we are looking at all of those things. It's early for us. We're still 8.5 months out. So it's, and vaccines are rolling out very quickly. So it's early for us to say some of the things we're doing, but for certain, we expect mask wearing to be the norm and probably mandated. Hand sanitation, the flow of guests, that's going to be very important. Having multiple entrances, some one-way systems, looking at capacities in meeting rooms. Again, utilizing the outside space for education. And just as Miguel said, really thinking about the design of the event. I think it's critical that when people go back to live, they've made the effort to be back together. They want to have those connections. So how do we do that for them in the best way possible and create a great atmosphere? I think that's really important, that we think through the experience at every part of the journey and make sure people, when they have made that effort to be in person, really get from it what they need to. And I agree, this period has allowed us to really ask our attendees, what do you need? What do you want from these online digital events? And I think we're getting better at asking those questions and listening carefully to the answers and then designing a better experience. So those are the kind of things we're looking at. For us, we want to make sure people are genuinely safe and secure and feel comfortable as well. So we'll do whatever we need to make that possible within the environment that we have at the time.
Yes, yeah, thank you. And also the same question, in the venue planner perspective for the GINA, what do you think, what will be the implications of safety security protocols in the hotel industry, of course in meetings and the event industry, but in the hotelier perspective? And also in your website, as before you said, you have mottos. You're saying that commitment to clean and contactless services. And you're saying that travel with confidence. How will this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we know if the travelers are not confident and do not feel safe staying in our hotels, they won't come, right? So we very early in the pandemic, Marriott had implemented our commitment to clean initiatives through all of our hotels. So that's almost 8,000 hotels globally. And kind of on the cusp of that, or on the backside of that, we also, even though events were not being held, we started a series with Connect with Confidence, right? So that is really the meetings and events portion of that, because we wanted to bring people together with confidence. We need to leverage health protocols, give people the option to participate in our own events, right? Because although we are hoteliers, we're also meeting planners, right? So we're bringing our customers into our hotels all the time. We also wanted to make sure that whatever events that we're creating now during the pandemic, that they're fully immersive and it's engaging and people are getting what they need out of it. So in addition to our commitment to clean and our Connect with Confidence, internally for our own events, we implemented what we call the 5 W's. So this is just a great best practice. The 5 W's are wear a mask, wash your hands, watch your distance, well-being checks. So how do you incorporate well-being into an environment where everyone is socially distanced and make sure everyone is comfortable? I think to Miguel's earlier point, he wasn't yet ready to travel for a meeting. I actually attended some of that meeting in person. So everyone's at a different place. So make sure wherever they're at in their own comfort level that you're checking on them and that they're checking on themselves and making sure they're still comfortable. And then the last W is walk with the flow. So that's just something additional we have layered into our events to make sure that everyone is comfortable being together. And there's so many little tips that we have learned from our own events. We have what's called sanctuary seating, where everyone really can pre-event pick your place. That's where you're going to sit every time. So you're not all walking in and, you know, kind of sitting where someone sat an hour earlier. You kind of own your seat like you do in a movie theater. And also, you know, we've implemented this wristband where there's green, yellow, red. Green meaning I'm totally open. I will greet you with a hug like I always have. Yellow meaning, you know, maybe I'll do a fist bump or an elbow bump, and red meaning I really prefer not to have physical contact. So there are so many different things we have implemented into our own meetings to make sure that people are feeling comfortable and confident in being together. I would say from a digital perspective, we have really escalated our digital in our hotels. So more of our hotels now have online check-in through the Bonvoy app. We have shortened that timeline. I believe we were on like a 2-year timeline before, and now it's actually by the end of July, right? So a lot of those things are here to stay, and we've actually just moved up the timeline. We were moving that way anyway. Many of our hotels, when you're staying, you can order your room service and all of that right from your phone, from the app on your phone. You can get extra towels, blankets. So you don't have to pick up the phone in the room, right? You can do it all from your own phone on the app. And it's just a knock at the door and they drop it and go, right? So there's a lot of little changes within our hotels that are taking place that I think are here to stay and won't change. And it will be contact at how the guest wants it, right? So if you don't want to use the app or don't want to pick up the phone, you can still go down to the front desk or down to the concierge and have a face-to-face conversation. So it's just our hotels adapting and being flexible to how our guests want to engage. So those, I think, are definitely here to stay.
Thank you, Gina. I took my 5W notes to use in academia.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Great. I'm learning also.
Great.
And for Miguel, my third question will be different for you as you started to talk about the technology, and I will continue with the technology. So what will be the future expectations about technology? I mean, the role of technology companies, for example, to using holograms, avatars in the content, especially in the virtual and of course, hybrid events.
Thank you for the question. There's a lot of new stuff. I mean, I think most companies are investing a lot in the virtual side at the moment. I don't see that much on the physical side. There's obviously innovations happening all the time, but the focus has been a lot on virtual. I think holograms are really interesting. They're not cheap. So I think, you know, they are really destined for the higher production value meetings. But it's great when you can have, you know, Bill Gates come to your meeting from the comfort of his own home or from a local Marriott hotel that has a, telepresence or hologram feature, right? So you need to have a place that can do it on both sides. I have seen a lot of convention centers and hotels invest a lot in the AV side of the world to make sure that they can really be a hybrid location. You know, they can be a TV studio and an event location at the same time. And I think if you're going to go down this hybrid kind of area, then this is absolutely a necessity. You need to have equipment. I mean, you can set everything up, but it's better if everything's in place and you have a team in place that understands what they want to do. So I'm seeing big investments there. Where I'm seeing a lot of opportunities and I'm slowly seeing some green shoots is on the hybrid side. And we talked a little bit about hybrid. It is a little bit open for interpretation what hybrid is, but there aren't that many tools on the market that actually have a sort of hybrid functionality. And the irony here, which I think is really interesting, is some of these tools have all the functionality you need, but then I believe for the hybrid experience, what you're looking for is something much simpler. So if you're looking to connect an online audience and a physical in-person audience, you don't want to distract the in-person audience during sessions. You want the online audience to see sessions and kind of consume content, but you don't want to really distract people. So there's a really interesting opportunity for tools to simplify their offering and offer a kind of just networking experience, for example, for the in-person to connect with the online. So I think that the role of technology may not be in the near future to be, wow and the most spectacular, projection mapping and things like that, but actually to facilitate some of these simpler things that we want to be able to do that we're not able to do with everybody being able to travel. So particularly on the networking side, if there are simple ways to bring technology to book meetings, and imagine if you have an event app, you're at a location and you can tell in the event app who's on site and who's online, and then you book some time in the coffee break to connect with a few people that are online, but you stay focused on the on-site for the most of the event. For me, that's a great experience. And it's really about focusing rather than spectacular technology that blows us away. There's a place for that. But I think as we kind of move towards back to the face-to-face, I think tools like this are actually going to be what's going to really be important for us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you, Miguel. So, in fact, I finished my questions, of course, my general questions, but I saw that we have time. We have still more time to talk about the other topics. So, especially as you start to talk about nature and the green meetings, green events. So, my question will be both Karina and Gina. Perhaps a little bit shorter answers because of the timing. But as all know, one of the commitments of your speech is nature. And we are talking about in the industry a lot of new norms of sustainability. And you have a really good report, which is done by IMEX, Marriott Groups, and Destination Sustainable Movement. And this report's name is the Regenerative Revolution Research Report, I'm sorry. So you're saying that time to think, imagine, and regenerate from linear to circular point. So I want to ask you, what will be the change? Can we imply these changes into our event design? Can it be possible? What do you think?
Well, it's definitely possible, but it's not easy, is what I would say, and that's why the report does have some great case studies, and for us, and there are many great organisations out there which are helping organisers and meeting planners and suppliers to really think through all the small and the large steps. So yeah, it's certainly possible. I think we as a trade show have proved that it's possible because we have over years taken small steps and incrementally improved our sustainability of each of the shows. The point of the report, just very briefly, is that it's one thing to reduce the impact that you have on the world from an environmental perspective, but what the report's really talking about is going to the next stage, which is not just reducing your impact, so minimizing how bad it is, but actually going to a circular way of organizing events where we're actually taking materials and putting them back into the system, so it's regenerative and it's circular. So that's really the fundamental concept behind the report, and it really is based in this idea of circular economy. So I know we don't have much time, so I won't say more, and I'll pass over to Gina, but it's definitely possible.
Yes, and what's your opinion, Gina? Can we imply these documentaries in event design?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it's back to kind of my earlier point about having good partners and that can help you execute something like that, right? So not necessarily is a hotel an expert on sustainability, but if you partner with someone locally that gives you the resources that you can, implement this for your event, that's where I would think I would focus on that. And I think too, every company, I know Marriott International has our own sustainability goals. So make sure you're keeping that at top of mind. So ask those questions as a meeting planner, ask those questions of the meeting owner on what's important to you, right? In sustainability, and what goals do you have? And then as meeting planners, then it's our job, right, to execute on those and partner with our good partners to make that happen. So yes, absolutely. I think this is a trend that we're actually seeing with our customers. I think there were some very interesting things that we saw globally with everyone being at home and, you know, less contribution from, you know, humankind as a whole to the negative things that we're doing to our planet. So the more positive momentum we can have in the area of sustainability, we definitely support that and will help execute that at all of our hotels.
So thank you for these short and extensive answers. So my question is about, I was planning to talk about a ROI perspective, but a question comes from Hassan Dinç, MPI. And so I want to use that question instead of mine. Okay, so can you please stress out for the local community the importance of international associations? Personally and commercially, you are spending a lot of resources, time, and energy. What's the ROI for individuals and companies? The question is coming from Hassan Dinç, MPI. So Miguel.
Sure, I'm happy to take this.
Okay.
A few years ago, when I was working for IMEX, we actually went around the show floor and made a video with some of the associations on the show floor, not about why we should join their association, but why associations are important. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember, you know, a lot of what people said in that video, and that's really what I believe in, which is when you're in, especially when you're in a hard situation like we're in right now, there's a huge amount of power in unity. You know, you need to collaborate with people more than ever. Mm-hmm. So while I know it's tough to afford and to invest time and resources into international associations, if you're really serious about, you know, being part of the industry, being part of the recovery and connecting with people all around the world to discuss and to attract business, I think international associations make loads of sense, and they're, in my view, a really worthwhile investment. It's not an easy investment. You don't just sort of pay your membership and business arrives at your door. You have to work really hard. Yes. But the connections that you make through being part of an association and the level of discussion that you can have, for me, is very different from when you do it at a local level or when you do it alone. So I would always, head in that direction where possible.
From a company perspective, totally agree with what Miguel said. And I think in this period in particular, we've really seen the value of our associations, and as a business, the value of supporting our associations. And the significant donation that we made to the MPI Foundation was because we wanted to give back to the industry when the industry was hurting. And what better way we can do that by supporting associations, but supporting individuals so they don't lose those connections and that network. And of course, many associations like MPI provide fantastic value with their education as well. And so we wanted people in the industry to keep their skills up, no matter whether they were on furlough or lost their job or their company couldn't pay. Keep them in that community, keep their skills up, help them to learn, and so they can get back to work and have value. And we had some amazing messages from all around the world, people who had benefited, who were just so happy to have not lost that community, as Miguel said, is so important.
Yes, thank you very much for your very fruitful answers. Now, of course, time is up, but I have lots of questions to talk about with you. Perhaps we'll organize another meeting for you to talk about the other questions like increasing ROI or education or something like that. But thank you, dear Karina, Gina, and Miguel. Thank you once again very much for being with us, MPI Turkey chapter here, for this valuable panel. And as a memory of today, MPI Turkey chapter donated samplings to Tourism Forest in Hatay district in Turkey, organized by Association of Turkish Tourism Academics. I want to show you see my screen? Yes, and this is for Karina. And also the same will go to Miguel and also Gina, if I can stop. And again, share for Gina. Thank you for being with us, Gina.
And we will, of course, send this by email.
Yes, of course. We will send you directly to your emails, and also for Jasmine Minutes and Miguel. So thank you once again. I'm so appreciate your being here.
Thank you. Very kind.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining us, for your support. It really feels good to be a part of an association, I think, and I hope we have conveyed this message to our Turkish audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.